Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the next lecture of the flexible AC transmission system, shortly known as FACTS. So, in the first lecture, I introduced you about the different topics that we are going to cover in this subject. So, let us start with the introduction to this subject. And before introduction, we'll mostly introduce you different topics which you will see that are the part of the power system. The first, let us start with the electrical transmission network. As we know that this electrical transmission network comprises of generators, transformers, transmission lines, load, and the protection and the control equipment. When they are coordinated to each other, so as the reliability of the transmission system will be increased, the quality of the power should be as high as possible, and the price of the unit should be very low. We can say these are the general motives or general perspective of this electrical transmission network. So when we talk about the generation, we have mostly, that is, the bulk power generation is done by the hydro generators, and this is only done when we have sufficient water available, and that too of a good head. We should have a thermal power plant, and we will always try to locate it near the coal mines, so that the transportation of the coal is not very much. Nuclear power plant, as we know, it is very hazardous and it has a lot of disadvantages. We try to locate it away from the locality. Similarly, geothermal and tidal power, they are site bound depending upon where they are available. We can say that they are not easily located everywhere. So I have to introduce you these types of generations, because bulk power generation is done by usually first three. Since bulk power generation is done by these three, so when we generate them, we have to transmit them to the load by proper installation of transmission lines, so that we can transfer or we can transmit this electrical energy to the consumers. So also, as we know that as load increases, we need to increase the generation, and to transmit that generated power to the load, we need to construct more and more transmission lines. So in general, to, to meet the load demand along with the reliability, we need to construct multiple lines, and sometimes we have to do the interconnection of the transmission lines. But by doing this, that is by having the multiple lines and interconnection, the system becomes more complex, and protection is adversely affected, or we can say protection which may be affected by this interconnection. We have to do some complex protection. So this is, we can say, the disadvantage of the interconnection of a different transmission line. Of course, it has some advantage as well, but here, since we have to go for other controllers, we need to first can say see what are the different disadvantages, and we try to overcome them by using these controllers. So this is about generation and how to increase the load demand by increasing generation, what we need and what are the different disadvantages. That is what we have discussed in this. Now we know that we have some fundamental requirements of power system. The first is the stability, another is the voltage magnitude, or we can say rated value of the voltage. So when we do some changes in the power system, the system should remain stable in steady state as well as in transient state. So whatever be the change in the power system, we need to consider these types of stabilities. So as we have already discussed, that the stability can be improved by controlling the excitation or by increasing the excitation level of the synchronous machine, or by controlling the real and reactive power flow through the network. This is usually done by the reactive power control equipment, and we'll discuss this, what are these reactive power control equipment, and some of you may know them. One more thing is that the voltage must remain nearly it should remain near to the rated value. So this is again done by the reactive power control. We have different types of reactive power equipment like switched shunt reactors, switched shunt capacitors, series capacitors, synchronous condensers, thyristor control reactor, thyristor switch reactor, saturated reactor. These are different types of reactive power equipment in which we can control the reactive power and hence we can control the voltage. One more thing, we need to consider the different loading capabilities of the transmission line. We need to consider the thermal limit, that is the maximum amount of current beyond which you can say this transmission line may melt, because this thermal limit depends upon the current. As I square R as I increase, I square R increases, the heat around the conductor increase, it may result in the melting of the conductor, or we can say conductor may be damaged. So that limit, that current is known as thermals. Similarly, stability limit, it is determined by the value of the real power, and dielectric limit, that is the voltage. If voltage is increased, or we can say if voltage is increased beyond the dielectric limit, there will be the voltage breakdown of the insulation, and it results in the three-phase fault. So while designing a power system or while changing the power system, we need to consider these type of the parameters, why these limitations or these fundamental requirements. They are to be uh, placed, or they ought to be placed in between their limits. They should not go beyond their limits. Now, keeping these things in mind, we have to see why do we go for the FACTS? That means FACTS technology or FACTS controllers. The first and the most important need of the FACTS is that it is used to increase the power transfer capability of the existing power system. So this is one of the most advantage of the power, this FACT devices, that when we use this, we are able to increase the power transfer capability of the existing system. So we are able to transfer the more power without constructing new transmission lines. We are actually doing it on the same transmission line. Also, this power transfer that has been increased is usually increased, and also it is controlled precisely. So that is one of its you can say second advantage. And this power transfer capability is increased without actually affecting the fundamental requirements of power system. We have just discussed it, and also the loading capability. It is in fact improving these requirements. You will see that it is improving all these things. So this is one more advantage of the we can say the FACT devices. So prime need, we can say we need to use different devices so that power transfer capability is increased without actually constructing the transmission lines. Now coming to the basic power flow through the AC transmission system, in this case we assume that our line is lossless and is a short transmission line. When we say the lossless line, it means its R is equal to 0, series resistance will be 0, and shunt conductance will also be 0. Short transmission line is its capacitance will be equal to 0. So the lossless short transmission line will look like this. Let us say this is receiving end, and this is the receiving end voltage, this is the sending end voltage, this is the sending end current, and this is the receiving end current. This is the total lumped reactance of the transmission. Let us assume that VR is taken as a reference. VR is equal to magnitude of VR angle of 0. Vs is equal to this magnitude of Vs angle of delta. We assume that this Vs is leading to this VR by delta, and the power flows from Vs to VR. As we know that the power flows from higher delta to lower delta, and that is real power. Reactive power flows from higher voltage to lower voltage. So IR, assuming that the current is lagging, that is equal to IR at an angle of minus theta. This is the lagging power factor angle. Now using KVL in this, you can see it is a loop from source to this receiving end or load. This Vs at an angle of delta will be equal to VR at an angle of 0 plus IR at an angle of minus theta Jx into Jx. That is the simple KVL equation. So this calculating total current, that is current phasor, that will be IR at an angle of minus theta, it will be equal to Vs angle of delta minus VR divided by Jx, that is Vs minus this divided with this. We are left with this angle of theta. So we can convert this J into 90, that is angle 90, it comes out to be Vs at an angle of delta minus VR divided by X at an angle of 90 degrees. So IR star, that will be equal to the complex conjugate of the current IR can be IR at an angle of this theta, that is Vs. We need to change all the angles of the respective parameters. So it will be equal to Vs at an angle of minus delta. Since it has no angle, there will be no change. So it is minus 90, so it's plus 90, it will change to minus 90. So when we find out the complex conjugate of the polar, of a complex number which is in the polar form, its complex conjugate will be simply the negative of its angle, and in rectangular form its complex conjugate will be simply the negative of the imaginary part. Now doing the same analysis, you can see that we have taken the angles to the numerator. You can see that from here Vs by x at an angle of, at an angle of, unit is here 90. When you take to numerator, it will be plus 90, 90 minus delta, and for this case it will be Vr divided by x at an angle of 90 degrees. That is what I have written over here. So the complex power at the receiving end will be equal to SR, that's PR plus JQR, that is equal to VR into IR star. So VR phasor, this angle is 0, it will be like this. IR star is this. So when we multiply it, it comes out to be VR Vs divided by x at an angle of 90 minus delta minus VR square by x at an angle of 90. Now simply you can see that this is a real part, this is imaginary part, it has both parts. So the imaginary part of this, the real part of this will be equal to PR, and imaginary part of this will be equal to QR. So doing that, that is separating the real and imaginary part, you will see that PR is equal to VR Vs divided by x sine of delta. So you can see here its real part will be equal to 0, its reactive part will be equal to VR square by x. So its real part will be equal to Vs VR by x cos of 90 minus delta, that will be sine delta, and its imaginary part will be equal to Vs VR by x sine of 90 minus delta, that is cos delta minus VR square by x. That's what I have written over here. So these are two equations, this is for PR, this is for QR. So this is the variation of this PR with respect to delta, keeping Vs, VR and x constant. So this is known as P delta curve. I already shown you in the previous power system class. So you know that this P max is equal to VR S by x. So this will be actually P max sine of delta. Its variation will be like this, and this is 0, this is pi by 2, and this is pi. And you know that beyond pi we usually don't show it, because beyond pi it may work as a motor, and from 0 to pi it will work as a generator, and we have to only see its generator move. One more thing, this is a P delta curve. If P max is more, that is this value, steady state stability is more. So to increase the steady state stability, or to play with the steady state stability, we have to change this P max accordingly. So if the area under P delta curve is more, transient stability is more, or we can say transient stability is dependent upon the area under the P delta curve, and steady state stability depends upon the peak value of the P delta curve. So these two are very important, because you'll see for every controller we'll be using these two facts to determine the steady state stability and transient stability. Now coming to the relative importance of the controllable parameter, we'll see that when we change some parameter, how we are going to change this P and this Q. We know that P is equal to VSVR by x sine of delta, and Q is equal to VSVR by x cos of delta minus VR square by x. So differentiating this with respect to delta, it will be equal to VR Vs by x cos of delta, because these three will be constant. So delta P by delta VR, that is the variation of this with respect to VR, to be equal to Vs by x sine of delta. Similarly, del Q by delta will be equal to minus Vs VR by x sine of delta, that is sine of delta, and delta P by delta VR will be equal to Vs by x cos of delta minus 2y VR by x. So for practical purposes, as you know that this delta is very small, and we can treat it, this delta to be equal to 0. So delta P by delta you can see from here, when it is 0, this will be equal to, this will be close to 1. It may be considered to be equal to Vs VR by x, so which is not equal to 0. So that means the change in real power with respect to delta is non-zero, and there will be a sufficient change, you can say. Similarly, delta P by delta VR, you can see from here, delta P by delta VR, it is equal to, when delta is 0, this will be 0. We can say that there will be negligible change in the real power when this voltage changes. Similarly, delta q by delta delta will be equal to 0. From here you can see that this equation will tend to 0 because this is sine delta, and delta q by delta VR will not be equal to 0, it will be now 0 quantity. That means this reactive power has we can say direct change with it changes directly with respect to this voltage. So keeping these things keeping these things in mind, we can have different types of the controllers. As I have told you already, that usually we have three types of variables, that is x, v and delta. So based on these values we can change either p or either q or sometimes both. In general, since I have shown you only the change of p and q with respect to delta, but in most of the cases you will see that this x will also have a direct effect with respect to p. It will change with respect to p as well. Now, in general, we can say this P is a function of delta. Similarly, Q is a function of voltage. And sometimes we may take this P is a function of X and delta. You'll see that when we directly change, or we have a change in the reactance of the line, we may have the change in the real power. Sometimes we have the reactive power because of the presence of the second term in this reactive power. The change in the first term and the second term may get neglected. You can see from this equation. When we see the change of this with respect to x, you can see the change in this term will be nullified by the change in this term because they are in the opposite to each other. And delta is very small. So in that case, we can say that this q has a negligible, x has a negligible effect on the reactive power, but it has a good amount of effect on the real power. That is, but in general, P can be treated as a function of x and delta, and Q can be only taken as a function of the voltage. So while looking at these functions, we can see the control of the line impedance, that is x. For example, TCSC, that's thyristor controlled series capacitor, can provide powerful means of current control when the angle is not large, that delta is very small, which is often the case, that is the practical case. Control of x or angle substantially provide a control of p. That is just what I have told you. So line impedance can change the real power. So control of the angle, you can say it is, this control is usually known as phase angle regulator or phase angle control, which in turn controls the driving voltage, provides a powerful means of the controlling current flow, and hence the active power when the angle is not large. Actually, in this case, you will see that we have a change in the current. You can see when this delta changes, or you can see directly when this delta changes, there is a change in the this reactive power, or why actually it tells us about the current because of this. Since IR is equal to Vs at an angle of delta minus Vr, when this delta changes, this IR has a direct, you can say, direct relation with this delta. When this changes, this IR will change, and hence you can say it changed the real power. Injecting the voltage in series with the line and perpendicular to the current. I will just wait from here. When we inject a voltage in series with the line and perpendicular to the current, we can say the voltage and the current, this voltage that we have injected in series with the line, they have the phasor relationship of 90 degrees. So we know that there are only two we can say parameters which have this type of a relationship, because a capacitance or an inductance. Inductance, you will see the voltage will be leading to the current by 90 degrees, and in case of capacitance, voltage will be lagging to the current by 90 degrees. That's why if the voltage is in series with the line and perpendicular, if the voltage is lagging to the current, it becomes a capacitor, and hence this current may decrease in that case. If it is a capacitance, current will increase in that case, and if the voltage is leading to the current by 90 degrees, it will act as an inductance, and the current will decrease in that case. Since the current will lead or lag by the driving voltage by 90, this means that reactive power injection in series can provide a powerful means of controlling the line current, because line current can increase or decrease, because you can see that this reactance can increase or decrease depending upon the phasor relationship uh, of 90 degrees, whether the phasor relationship is plus 90 or minus 90, and hence current is changed. This active power when delta is not known, active power can be controlled. So these are three which are usually used to control the active power. Similarly, if we inject a voltage in series, this is the same thing and with any phase. It is not that we have the phase relationship of 90 degrees only. In this case, the phase is different from the 90 degrees. So with respect to the driving voltage, it can control the magnitude and the phase of the line current. So in this case, in the previous case, we have only the magnitude of the line current, but in this case, it is also phase. This means that injecting a voltage phasor with a variable phase angle can provide a powerful means of precisely controlling the active and reactive power. Because of the phase there, you will see that there is a change in reactive power as well. So here, by using this, that is a voltage source in series with the line having a different angle from 90 degrees with respect to the current, it is a powerful means of actually controlling the real and reactive power. In this case, we are controlling actually both. So when angle delta is not large, controlling the magnitude of one or other line voltages with the TCVR, that is thyristor control voltage regulator. In this case, this type of a controller is used to directly control the voltage and can be very cost effective. It is usually very you can say cheap for the control of the reactive power flow through the interconnection, and hence when the voltage is controlled, we can directly say that we are controlling the reactive power. So combination of the line impedance control with the series controller and the voltage regulation with the shunt controller. So usually line impedance controller is done in series. That's why it's known as series controller. Line impedance is usually changed by a series controller, and voltage regulation is usually done by the shunt controller. Can also provide a cost-effective means to control both active and reactive power flow between the two systems. So when we combine these series and shunt, we can control both reactive and active power. So in a nutshell, we can say that we have the three parameters. We can use them individually to control the real and reactive power individually. We can say it may be an independent control or dependent control that will be discussed in detail when we actually discuss a particular controller, but for the time being we can say that they are dependent, and sometimes we can use a combination of them so as to control both, that is simultaneously active as well as reactive powers. For the time being I will stop over here. I will continue with the same in the next class. Thank you.